In May 1863, Robert E. Lee's Confederate Army of Northern Virginia had scored a smashing victory over the Army of the Potomac at Chancellorsville. Brimming with confidence, Lee decided to go on the offensive and invade the North for a second time. The first invasion had ended at Antietam the previous fall. In addition to bringing the conflict out of Virginia and diverting Northern troops from Vicksburg, where the Confederates were under siege, Lee hoped to gain recognition of the Confederacy by Britain and France and strengthen the cause of Northern Copperheads who favored peace. On the Union side, President Abraham Lincoln had lost confidence in the Army of the Potomac's commander, Joseph Hooker, who seemed reluctant to confront Lee's army after the defeat at Chancellorsville. On June 28th, Lincoln named Major General George Gordon Meade to succeed Hooker. Meade immediately ordered the pursuit of Lee's army of 75,000 men, which by then had crossed the Potomac River into Maryland and marched on into southern Pennsylvania.
Upon learning that the Army of the Potomac was on its way, Lee planned to assemble his army in the prosperous crossroads town of Gettysburg, 35 miles southwest of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. One of the Confederate divisions in A.P. Hill's command approached the town in search of supplies early on July 1st, only to find that 2 Union cavalry brigades had arrived the previous day.
We're in desperate need of supplies right now. My men have no shoes as it is. Neither do I. Huh. Oh, look at this. Shoes. Finally. Oh no, it's a Union. What are you doing here? No, men, retreat, retreat, run, run.
As the bulk of both armies headed towards Gettysburg, Confederate forces were able to drive the outnumbered Federal defenders back through town to Cemetery Hill, located a half-mile to the south. Seeking to press his advantage before more Union troops could arrive, Lee gave discretionary orders to attack Cemetery Hill to Ewell, who had taken command of the Army of Northern Virginia's 2nd Corps after Lee's most trusted general, Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson, was mortally wounded at Chancellorsville. Ewell declined to order the attack, considering the Federal position too strong. His refusal would earn him many unfavorable comparisons to the great Stonewall.
General Ewell. General Lee. I have a plan. It's a very good plan. The Union forces are stationed on Cemetery Hill right over there. They're very weak right now. What I need you and your men to do is charge the hill, push the Union forces out. We can take Gettysburg with the remainder of the day and win the battle.
No, I can't do that. I'm sorry. It's too fortified and too strong. I won't be coming.
Fine. We'll just have to wait until tomorrow, July 2nd. But tomorrow, we're going to take the hill.
By dusk, a Union corps under Winfield Scott Hancock had arrived and extended the defensive line along Cemetery Ridge to the hill known as Little Round Top. 3 more Union corps arrived overnight to strengthen its defenses.
We're in dire need of reinforcements here on Little Round Top. We're running out of men and supplies. Oh, finally, here's General Hancock and reinforcements.
Yes, sir. Reporting for duty.
Good.
As the next day dawned, the Union Army had established strong positions from Culp's Hill to Cemetery Ridge. Lee assessed his enemy's positions and determined, against the advice of his defensively minded second-in-command, James Longstreet, to attack the Federals where they stood. He ordered Longstreet to lead an attack on the Union left, while Ewell's corps would strike the right, near Culp's Hill.
General Longstreet, you're going to attack Culp's Hill on the left flank, and General Ewell, you're going to attack Culp's Hill on the right flank.
Though his orders were to attack as early in the day as possible, Longstreet did not get his men into position until 4 p.m., when they opened fire on the Union Corps commanded by Daniel Sickles. Over the next several hours, bloody fighting raged along Sickles' line, which stretched from the nest of boulders known as Devil's Den into a peach orchard, as well as in a nearby wheat field and on the slopes of Little Round Top.
Advance! Retreat! Retreat, get back, there's too many!
Thanks to the fierce fighting by one Minnesota regiment, the Federals were able to hold Little Round Top, but lost the orchard field and Devil's Den. Sickles himself was seriously wounded.
Advance again! We got him, we got Sickles! No, get back! There's too many! No! Retreat!
Ewell's men had advanced on the Union forces at Culp's Hill and East Cemetery Hill in coordination with Longstreet's 4 p.m. attack, but Union forces had stalled their attack by dusk. Both armies suffered extremely heavy losses on July 2nd, with 9,000 or more casualties on each side. The combined casualty total from 2 days of fighting came to nearly 35,000, the largest 2-day toll of the war.
Early on the morning of July 3rd, Union forces of the 12th Army Corps pushed back a Confederate threat against Culp's Hill after a 7-hour firefight and regained their strong position. Believing his men had been on the brink of victory the day before, Lee decided to send 3 divisions, preceded by an artillery barrage, against the Union center on Cemetery Ridge. Fewer than 15,000 troops, led by a division under George Pickett, would be tasked with marching some 3/4 of a mile across open fields to attack dug-in Union infantry positions.
Oh no, it's flying up! Ah!
Despite Longstreet's protests, Lee was determined, and the attack, later known as Pickett's Charge, went forward around 3 p.m. After an artillery bombardment by some 150 Confederate guns, Union infantry opened fire on the advancing rebels from behind stone walls, while regiments from Vermont, New York, and Ohio hit both of the enemy's flanks. Called from all sides, barely half of the Confederates survived, and Pickett's division lost 2/3 of its men. As the survivors stumbled back to their opening position, Lee and Longstreet scrambled to shore up the defensive line after the failed assault.
Wow, I just watched one of my divisions get flanked. Alright, man, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take one last charge of that hill. We need to take this hill. Lee wants us to take this hill. If we can't take this hill, this battle's over. Let's go. Go, attack! No, retreat, the Union, they won the battle. They won.
His hopes of a victorious invasion of the North dashed, Lee waited for a Union counterattack on July 4th, but it never came. That night, in heavy rain, the Confederate general withdrew his decimated army toward Virginia. Though the cautious Meade would be criticized for not pursuing the enemy after Gettysburg, the battle was a crushing defeat for the Confederacy. Union casualties in the battle numbered 23,000, while the Confederates had lost some 28,000 men, more than a third of Lee's army. The North rejoiced while the South mourned, its hopes for foreign recognition of the Confederacy erased. Demoralized by the defeat at Gettysburg, Lee offered his resignation to President Jefferson Davis, but was refused. Though the great Confederate general would go on to win other victories, the Battle of Gettysburg, combined with Ulysses S. Grant's victory at Vicksburg, also on July 4th, irrevocably turned the tide of the Civil War in the Union's favor.